Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E. I have a very special guest on the show. He's a husband, a father, entrepreneur, an author, youth mentor, a podcaster. Welcome to the show, Tsombawi Knibye. I messed this up. And I was I'm gonna let him say his name, but I had it, but I had your name. I was been practicing it this whole time because when Genesis was doing the interview, she tried it, and I had it. I just messed it up.
It's all good, man.
It's Tsombawi Knibye Jr.
So we'll fix it up. So Tsombawi Knibye.
I knew this.
Yes, sir. It's a very common name, so you know.
Welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you coming through. We have a mutual friend, Genesis, who had you as a guest on her show.
Yes.
And she sent me the link, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta have him on my show. It would be dope to have him on because you have a real unique you have a real special story, man. And this is why I wanted you to have, because my podcast is to have people on who have stories, who've gone through some things in their lives and overcome them and just prevailed and so in a way that I just thought it would be good to have you on the show, bro. So all right, so just tell the people a little bit something about yourself.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you, Wise, for having me. It's an honor to be here with you and your audience to share and to just have good conversation. A little about me. Born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. I like to say I'm from Jersey. Most people that say that they're from Jersey, I always say, if you say you're from New Jersey, you are not from Jersey. You people who are from Jersey say I'm from Jersey, not New Jersey.
Just like me, when they ask me where I'm from, I don't say I'm from New York City. I say I'm from Brooklyn. And that's how it goes. That's how I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah. New York and Jersey they're just like kind of like peas in the pod, man. So
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, born and raised there for about 20 plus years of my life. Then eventually moved to Delaware, where I met my wife. We celebrated 15 years this past July. 2 children, boy and a girl. Personally, from my business standpoint, I'm an entrepreneur. I do, of course, podcasting. I have my own podcast as well called the Frame of Mind Inc. podcast. My blanket company is Frame of Mind Inc. That's INK, and that's where we have our own apparel brand, where it's all positive mindset apparel brand, not just t-shirts. It's like, we have, wristbands, we have duffel bags, we have hoodies. We're adding more products to the store as well. We also do music and video editing. I do voiceovers. I do, songwriting, music production, and of course, youth mentoring and parent coaching as well. So a few things that I do. Some of those things kind of branch out to more of a personal business thing or a solo business thing rather than the actual, company, Frame of Mind Inc. But it's all kind of tied in together. Just bringing about positivity into people's lives as best we can, and to do all of this to build people up and to let them know that your mindset is huge and it can change a lot of things in your life.
And that's something similar to what I wanted to do with my podcast. Is when I started podcasting, it was 2020. I was just furloughed from my job because of the pandemic and everything in social media and everything was just negative. All the news and everything was just negative. And I wanted to focus on bringing something more positive, having people come on and talk about whatever the struggles and things that they went through in their life to overcome and turn their life around. And it's been a great experience. I've been having some great conversations. I've been meeting some amazing people like yourself. I've made some great friends through podcasting, and it's actually led me to starting my business, which is a production company that we started in 2020 as well. But like you, I've been doing voiceover work. I've been editing video, audio, and these are things I taught myself within the last couple of years from starting from podcasting, because my background isn't media or production or any of that. I'm a table games dealer in a casino.
Okay.
And so when I started podcasting and I started doing all this other stuff, and you know, being an independent podcaster, you do everything yourself at the beginning. You learn, you do everything. You're your editor, you're your graphic designer. You do everything. You find everything you need to do to make your podcast be successful. And so from that, I just been developing skills and just working hard to produce positive content.
Yeah. Well, I applaud you, man. I applaud you.
So, all right. So you have your company. What is the name again?
Frame of Mind Inc.
And you do all types of things. And you're an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship is not an easy thing, man. It's actually much more harder than working a 9-to-5. So that's why a lot of people prefer to just stay in a 9-to-5, because they can't handle the work that it takes to be an entrepreneur, because it isn't easy. Being an entrepreneur is actually much more work, and it involves you doing much more for yourself than as going to work for somebody and collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, it could be a lonely journey too, where you're wondering, is there anybody else out there that thinks like me? Is anybody out there doing this other than me? It's very hard when you're working opposed to 8 hours a day to 16 to 19 hours a day, because you're trying to build your thing, and when it's your thing and your vision, you can't always convince others to get on board with that because they don't see what you see. And so until things start to move or things start, building up some steam, you on that train by yourself. You putting the coal in, you putting the fire on, you making it do what it do. So, and that's the thing. The thing I did find though is that when you find a community of entrepreneurs, that makes the journey a lot better, because now you're around other like-minded people who think like you, who work like you do, have the same mindset as you do, and can encourage you when you're going through those times of frustration, those times of being mad and upset, and those times of when you have those goals and achievements you set and you hit them. So you have people to go to that can be there for you in the good and the bad times as well.
And it's crazy because you think that it would be your friends and family that would be giving you the most support in any venture that you do, and I find that to be completely not true. It's the people you least expect are the ones that support you.
Yeah, most definitely. Strangers.
Yeah. And it's amazing because some of my biggest supporters are podcasters, content creators that I've met along the way, and they're some of my biggest cheerleaders. Yeah. And then you get friends that won't even share your stuff. Like they don't, and then all it takes is a share. Just share. What does it hurt for you to share something? Yeah. But it's difficult, man. It's hard work, but I love doing it. Don't get it wrong. As hard as it is, and as much work as it, I just love doing it because I found my purpose. I found my voice. I found something that I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah. All about passion, man. Passion. Listen, passion and drive will turn work into play and fun in the long run.
Yeah.
When you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work.
Not at all. It doesn't. I wish everyone could find what they're passionate about, or a job that they're happy with or doing. And again, not everyone is built to be an entrepreneur. It's not for everyone. Some people they're happy being employees, and that's great. But for those that are wanting to get into entrepreneurship and are thinking about doing it, it's make sure you find what you love to do. Make sure it is something that you feel that you're willing to put the hard work and effort into it. Yeah.
And I'll even say this, that could change over time. You may be passionate about something now, and in 10, 15 years from now, that passion may change something else. So you have to understand, even in your walk as an entrepreneur and doing your own thing, you have to adapt to change and not be afraid of it. Your plans are going to change, and all that. So be open to knowing that, hey, I was passionate about this then. What am I passionate about now? And then make sure that you take that path into your entrepreneurship, because if you try to stay stuck in what you used to do and try to bring that train along, you're going to tire yourself. You're going to be pulling something that's no longer, doing it for you.
Yeah.
And what happens is you'll end up wanting to quit rather than change course into what you're passionate about now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. That's facts, man. But for me, like, so what made you get into podcasting?
To be honest, two things. Number one, I mean, people had always told me, "Oh, you got a great radio voice. You should do radio." And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I've yet to do radio. I've done voiceovers for radio stations, this, that, and the other, but I've never done radio per se. But then, like you, the pandemic hit. And I was like, how can I get my voice out there rather than just, me doing something on Facebook or Instagram or whatever? And immediately podcasting came to mind. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing radio. I've never done radio, but podcasting is pretty simple to do. People think that podcasting is really hard. And if you're just starting out, it's as simple as your phone and your voice, literally. You don't have to have, the microphone and the software and the studio and all that. It's just literally your phone and your voice and an app and talking to it. Or your phone and just record it and talking to it and then put it out. And as time goes along, you can always, evolve into bigger and better ways of doing it. But the pandemic and the fact that I knew I had a place I could use to talk to the masses. So that's how I got started. So we've been doing this podcast since June of 2020. So we're in our third year now.
Yeah, I've been going since April of 2020, and I just released episode 152 or 53. I think 153.
Nice.
And it's been great, man. And like you, I people go, because to me, I didn't like the way I sound. And everybody goes, "What are you talking about, dude? You have a radio voice. Why would you think you don't sound good?" But to yourself, you really don't sound good. You really to me, I feel like I sound weird. And when people listen to me, they're like, nah, you have that radio voice. You have that voice that you can do radio. And like you, I can't say I haven't done radio because we launched the internet radio station and I've hosted a couple of shows on there. So I've done some type of radio.
Yeah.
But I love podcasting, and I love the fact that I've been able to find my voice and be able to put out positive content and just focus on putting that out. Just focus on having great guests on, having some great conversations, and it's working because people are hitting me up telling me, "Hey, I needed to hear this episode. That episode was good. It helped me in a way." And those are the comments that I look forward to. Are those that people sending me messages that, "Hey, this episode helped me get through this," or "I heard this episode and the message you delivered on there really resonated with me." And now me and a friend of mine, we recorded one of my episodes. He's a real estate agent in Brooklyn. And we talked about manifestation, goal setting, and all these other things that we were doing. And a friend of ours from high school was listening to the episode, and they heard the episode. And after they heard it, they reached out to me and said, "Thank you. Listening to you two guys speak and talk about what y'all were doing has inspired me," because they were on the fence about starting their business. And hearing us speak put them over the edge, put them like, "I'm going to do this." These are two guys that I know, that I grew up with. They're doing their thing. Why can't I? And that's what I want. I want people to be able to listen to what I'm doing, and if they can take something from it, then it's to me, that's being successful. That's what I want.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, man, because you never know who you're talking to. You never know who's listening. You never know, even from a video perspective, who's watching. It's funny when you hear someone who you went to high school with, or someone who you were cool with years ago, or just a stranger, that's on LinkedIn. It says, "Hey, man, like I loved your podcast today, man. It really spoke to me." Those are those moments that we look for, when we're doing our positive, podcast, and we're putting out that content that people need to hear. And our audiences may not be, the big guys that are doing big things. Our audience is just regular, everyday people.
Yeah.
And every now and then you may get someone who stumbles upon your podcast who makes the big bucks and big dollars and does things, and you never know what happens. But when you know who your audience is and you know where you're supposed to be, you can speak to that audience the way you should. And then, and also it's good to be knowledgeable in what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because just putting content out there just because you got a voice, you got to put out some good content. You just can't just be talking now and just flapping off at the mouth. You got to put out some stuff, because people listen, in today's world with the internet, people will Google what you talked about and say, "Hey, are they talking real stuff?" People will say they'll fact check you. You know what I mean? Make sure you know what you're talking about. So you gotta, be on your game and have knowledge and understanding of what you're talking about, and experience too. Because listen, you can have the knowledge and understanding, but experience is a much better teacher, I believe, than going to school, getting stuff. Now listen, I'm not saying not to go to school. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when you experience things, you learn what to do and what not to do when you're going through experiences. And so that's key, man. So for us, podcasting over these past few years, we've learned what to do, what not to do, what works, what doesn't work, what our audience wants to hear, what they don't want to hear, but also recognizing that whatever content we're giving out there, it has to fall within the category of what we're doing. Yeah. And also make sure, okay, this is what the audience likes. How can we curve this to fit our content to talk about this? And if it doesn't, you got to let it go and be like, hey, look, whoever it's meant for, that's who it's meant for. And still speak to your audience, but you also want to make sure that you're being true to you and who you are and what you're talking about and what you're doing.
And that's what I think. That's why I think people listen to my podcast, is because I try to just be myself. And same thing with my guests. I want them. Yeah, some of my guests are here to promote whatever stuff they have, books or whatever. But at the same time, I want people to realize that they're regular folk. They're regular people just like you and me, and they have a story to share. And I appreciate them coming on and sharing their stories. And it just it makes for good content. To have people come on and I've had people from all walks of life. I've had celebrities, I've had coaches, authors, all types of people on. Mm-hmm. And at the root of it all, everybody wants the same thing. People want to be happy. They want their family to be well. They want to be successful. But they got us out here believing that we're all so different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think with that being said, we need to understand that, we have our differences, but when it's all said and done, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Definitely. It's not like, you're a giraffe and I'm a zebra. Like, we're all human beings. You know what I mean? We're not. So we all have our daily struggles. We have our daily grinds. We have, our families, our jobs, if we have them, our businesses, and whatever else we deal with in life that comes along the way, because that's what life's all about. It's about growing. It's about, becoming and continuing to become. And that's one of the hardest things, man. The hardest things in life is to become what it is that you see yourself being, or that yourself, to be. And I think that positivity that we put into people as a saying, hey, you can do this, and having that positive reminder all the time. Even on our podcast, we have affirmations all the time. So when we start our podcast, we go on Wednesday nights every night. Oh, not every night. Every Wednesday we go. We're actually switching to every other week now. But every time we have a podcast, we have our affirmations that we say every episode. You know what I mean? And so it's like, we're going to start this podcast off right. Whatever part of the week you're still listening to this podcast, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or end of the week, like, it's affirmation that day, whatever day it is. Start your day off right. Let's keep it moving. So it's just, again, all about a mindset. And a lot of things, everything starts in our head. Whatever we think becomes what we speak, and what we speak becomes what we achieve. So if you're thinking negative thoughts and speaking negative things, that's what you're going to manifest. That's what's going to be your outcome. If you're thinking positive thoughts and saying positive things, you're going to have those positive outcomes. That's actually the tagline of our company is think it, speak it, achieve it, you know? And so you have to develop, you know, a mindset around that, be able to let people know and let yourself know, first of all, before you let anyone else know, let yourself know that, you know, that you can do this and that you are, you know, capable of getting this done. And then put people around you and in your circle that are going to help you achieve that. Don't fill your circle with yes men. Like don't do that, because yes men are going to put you in a bad place, because all they're going to do is say yes to everything, because what they want to do is they want to come for the free ride, or they want to say yes to you because they feel as though, well, if I'm your friend, saying yes to you is the right thing to do, and that's not. You know, true friends or true people who are in your circle are going to let you know when you're not going the right way, let you know when you're not making the right decision, and let you know, hey, you know what, that is good. Let's do that. You know, and you want to make sure you have people in your circle that are going to put you in the right direction, the right path for where you're going. Because again, it's been said that you'll become like the people who are most close, the 5 people who are you're closest to. Yeah. That's who you become. And so we outgrow circles, you know, where it's like, hey, if everyone is gleaming from me, I've outgrown my circle. I got to find a new circle, because now if everyone's picking and pulling from me, well, what do I have left?
It's like that saying: if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
You have to go into another room where you can grow and develop, because that's what life is about, man. It's about learning life lessons, growing from them, and just keep it going, man. Like you said, that's why I named it Stuck in My Mind, because I was stuck in my head for a long time with making up excuses to why I couldn't do podcasts or with anything, or just with anything in life. It was just me in my head knowing I had to do certain things, but me making up excuses to why I shouldn't do them. Like, and finally, when I decided to start the podcast and finally decided to press record and release the episode, like this big weight was lifted off of me, and it was just like, yo, this is what I want to do. This is something that, and it just took me just not being afraid, and because again, it was me being stuck in my head saying, oh, I suck. Who would want to listen to me? What kind of content would I create? Like, I sound horrible. Who would want to? And it was just me just holding myself back. Just me, just the self-talk was defeating me. My own self-talk was defeating me.
Yeah.
And so when I finally stopped that and focused on, like, yo, man, listen, let me do this. Let me just step out of my comfort zone, press record, and release it out there. And when I finally did that, it was 5 minutes. My first episode was 5 minutes. Second one grew up to 7, and it kept going and going and going to the point where I started doing half an hour to hour shows. At one point, one of my earliest shows, I probably recorded a 3-hour show. But that was just me getting comfortable, and me with every episode I hope I improve with every episode. And so when I started really finding out that this is one, like, I started with a little Behringer podcasting studio that I paid $160 for. And it did the work. It did what it was supposed to do. But once I started realizing that this is something that I really wanted to do and wanted to really focus on giving people quality content, quality audio, video, I started investing in myself. I was like I said, I was furloughed from my job, and at that time the government was giving extra money. And instead of going and spending that money on Jordans or clothes or materialistic stuff, I invested in quality equipment. I got me a Rodecaster Pro. I got me a quality mic. I invested in courses on helping me how to edit and all these other stuff. But it was me wanting to invest in myself, because I felt that people were giving me something very precious, and that is their time. And so they're giving me that. I need to give them something in return. I need to give them quality content. I need to make sure my audio game is on point, my video game is on point, everything, because again, the time that these people are giving me is very precious. And I want to give them value for their time.
think several things you said. Number one is getting past fear.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard it said, that on the other side of fear is where your victory is, and we've heard it said many different ways, or whatever. But I mean, it's not a lie. It's definitely true. Once you get past fear, there's no telling where you can go. And you said you were, self-talk, self-negative talk you were dealing with. I think we've all dealt with self-negative talk. I don't care how successful anyone is. All of us in life at one time or another have dealt with self-negative talk about, I'm not good enough. I can't do this, that, and the other. And what I've learned over time through, mentors and just studying is that the thing that we focus on becomes the biggest thing. And if you focus on the things you can't do, that will be the biggest thing in your life. It's always, well, I can't.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the thing that I can do and that I can becomes your biggest thing, then you can conquer almost anything. You know what I mean? Because that's the biggest thing that you're focusing on. And so the other thing you said was that you just finally went out there and you did it. And you started somewhere. And I think for a lot of us who are trying to get somewhere, we're comparing ourselves to other people. Like, oh, well, so-and-so's doing this. Let me try and do what they're doing. It's like, oh, well, what are you supposed to do? Like, what are the steps you need to take? Because if we're trying to get where someone else is and we're trying to skip steps to get there, that number one, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that people have to go through stuff to get where they're going. And that's just trial and tribulation. Like you have to go through something to get somewhere. And so if you say to yourself, oh, I want to be where so-and-so is, okay. Your first question, if you ever get a chance to talk to that person, your first question should be, what did you go through to get to where you are?
Yeah.
When they tell you those things, you might be like, I might want to change my mind about wanting to be like you or wanting to be where you are. Or you can say, okay, what do I need to do to prepare myself to go through these things so I can get where you are? And that's one or two things you can do. But understand, not everyone is built to deal with everything. You're built for dealing with like I can't take on your burden, you can't take on mine. We're all built to take on those certain burdens that we were created for. Period.
And and with like my story, I was widowed at 31. After I lost my wife, I reconnected with my dad only to lose him a year later after losing my wife. I lost two brothers, one to opioid overdose, and another one to sickness. I lost an aunt and a couple of cousins to cancer. My aunt was very special. She was the matriarch of the family. She's the one who brought most of her siblings over from Puerto Rico to the United States. And so to lose her was a big part of. And then I lose an uncle as well. So it was a time from the age of 31 to like 37 where I was angry. I was just pissed off with spirit, God, whoever, whatever you believe in, and I just I was headed down the wrong path. I was self-destructive, not self-medicating, drinking, not giving a damn about life, not giving a damn about anything. And one day I wake up and I'm like, I can't live like this anymore. This can't continue. Life has to change. I can't continue to be angry over something that I had no control over. And that was the case. I was angry over something I had no control. And so when I realized this is like, I'm not honoring their memory by me continuously being self-destructive. And so I sought the help that I needed, turned my life around, got remarried, I have a pretty good career, and now I'm doing my podcasting. And this is another form of therapy for me, is to be able to express this and tell my story and be able to come on here and let people know, like, listen, no matter what you go through in life, you can overcome it. You can get up, you pick yourself up and get through it. And somebody asked me, like, do I regret anything that happened to me in my life? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. But it's made me who I am. With all the losses and tragedies I've been through have made me who I am. And if God didn't intend for me to be able to deal with it, he want to burden me with it. And so, I kind of also thank my wife, my first wife, because she's the one who introduced me into the world of self development, she introduced me to Sylvia Brown, Abraham Hicks, all these things that would eventually help me get out of the darkness that I was in.
Wow, that's an amazing story, man. And I think that's probably why you connect with so many people on your podcast, because you have the experience of being stuck in your mind. You know what I mean? You have the experience of dealing with a lot of loss that to a lot of people can be traumatizing. You know, it's amazing for me being a youth mentor. I deal with a lot of urban city kids, and it's amazing the stuff that they see and deal with and go through on a daily basis. Things that when we were children, like it was hidden from us. We didn't have to see all this stuff, but they see this stuff all the time, the domestic violence or wherever else you make, people. And it's like for them, this is how life is, what life is all about. And you kind of have to go in and be able to start trying to slowly turn their mind and saying, no, this is not what life has to be. I understand that home is rough. And I know that when you go to school, that's kind of like your safe haven. And it almost makes them like every day getting up to go to school, like they want to go to school because that's a safe place for them. That's a place where they can, they're there at school longer than they are at home. They're at school 8 hours of the day, 7-8 hours of the day. Like they love it. Of course, there's structure at school and things of that nature. There's adults, there's staffing, there's rules and regulations, but there's not the stuff they have to deal with at home that puts them in a bad place, that they have to deal with and see, with the violence and the language and, just all the stuff that can really traumatize someone. I've told someone before, our schools aren't necessarily schools anymore. They're more like hospitals. When we were in school, there was the principal, your assistant principal, your teachers, your specialists, your janitors, and that was about it. Now, we have counselors, and we've got psychiatrists, and all these people who are now in our schools because of how much stuff our youth are dealing with. And for you to open up about that and say what you have gone through and what you have endured during that time, that's huge, man, because it just goes to show that no matter what we go through, there is an exit and an out. The question is do you want to get out? Do you want the exit? And it may not be something that you do on your own. You may have to get help, whether it's professional or it's just someone or a group of people who choose to help you get out of that. So, man, I'm just, a big congrats to you, man, for just being able to share that and being able to let that be the driving force of what you do and what you do on this podcast.
To me, it's because we come from a time where it wasn't okay to talk about seeking help, seeking therapy, going, especially in the Black and brown community. It's not, especially for men. Yeah. We're not allowed to show weakness. We're not allowed to show emotions. It was something where you're a man. You gotta be strong. You can't cry. Can't do anything. And that can't be further from the truth, man. Like, we're men, yes, but we're also human beings. We also have feelings. We also have emotions. We also break easily. It's not like it's that thought process that we can do it without seeking that help is just not right, man. Like, so for me to be able to share my story, and if someone hears him like, yo, this brother is willing to show that he's vulnerable, he's willing to show that he's been through some things in life, and he went and he saw the help that he needed. If my story can impact anybody, then I'm gonna continue to share it.
Yeah, we gotta tell our stories. We have to. I mean, we have them for a reason. We read about it in books, autobiographies. We see it in movies. And even in scripture. Those of you who may read the Bible, like, we see stories. Those stories are there for a reason. and someone has to tell them, or someone has to read them, or someone has to, put them on screen for us to see, what this was like. And for men, it's just, we've been kind of drawn into a culture of manhood of, hey, suck it up, deal with it. Like, don't cry, be a man about it. I was like, okay, what does that mean? What I mean? Be a man about it. Like you said, like, we're human beings. We have feelings too. Now, we do probably, have those emotions and feelings. We probably express them differently than a woman or a child would, but we do have them. Mm-hmm. And we have them for a reason to use them, but to have them and use them in a positive way, and that may not always happen based on our surroundings, where we live, what we've been taught. And for me, being one who, even in my story with dealing with, loss of a child, that's something that I dealt with. It's like, man, I question my manhood. I question whether or not, man, am I really able to be a father? Am I really? And then I questioned whether or not I was able to be a good husband to my wife. And then I started kind of going down that rabbit hole of all these negative questions about myself. Like, am I good enough to be X, Y, and Z? And then on top of that, I'm asking questions, to Elohim. I'm like, what is this all about? Why is it that this is happening to us? Like, why are we going through this?
Why am I being the one picked out of? Why is it that it was? Am I such a horrible person that this is happening to me? Yeah. All these tragedies and losses are happening to me because I'm a bad person, and I had to realize, no, that's not the reason why. This is something that this was something that just it happened. That was my form of dealing with the grief at that time, but eventually I came to the realization that it was doing me more harm than good. Yeah. And so it was just me really wanting to, again, I felt at that time that I wasn't doing their honor any good by me being so angry, by me blaming, feeling like just angry with everything, and not like it. I just felt that I need, when you hear that voice in your head, when that voice hits you, like it just came to me like, yo, you need to wake up. It's time for you to wake up. It's time for you to get out of whatever you're going through, seek the help that you need, and move on. Yeah. And of course, it's always gonna hurt. You're always gonna have those feelings. You're always gonna miss those people. But little by little, the pain subsides somewhat. You're always gonna always think of them. But now I feel like I'm doing more. I'm doing their names and their justice now by me coming and sharing my story and me sharing the experiences I've gone through, and hopefully someone can learn from.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, I definitely applaud you for what you're doing and all that you're doing for our community as African Americans, and for all those out there who are listening to your show. I think a number of times, we put a lot of emphasis on the African American community, as we should as African Americans, because we want to see those positive changes and positive things come out of our community, because there are a number of things that are very negative in our communities. But we also want to make sure that, this podcast, any podcast, talks to anybody, whatever you're dealing with. It talks to you. It speaks to you. And from a general man standpoint, like men are men, no matter what ethnicity you are. Men are men, and there are a lot of men out there who are just, they're looking for ways out. They're looking, but the one thing that we don't do as men is that we don't ask. We don't ask.
No, it's like pride. Pride stops us from asking. Like it holds us back from asking because we don't want people to judge us.
Yeah. And my father, he was one, and my father is my hero, flat out, straight down. And he was one that taught me about how you can, still be a strong man, and still, have and use your emotion, correctly. He's one that my father, he will cry at two different times of his life. He would do this. My father, he will cry in church, or he will cry at a funeral for someone that was close to him, whether it's family, close friend. Now, people have told me that he cried at my wedding. I don't know. I haven't confirmed that yet. But I know for a fact, church and funerals, he will cry, drop of a dime. But for me, those are the only times that I've witnessed my father crying. And and the talks that we had, it was me saying, okay, it's okay to do this. It's okay to cry. Now, of course, you don't want to be the kind of man that just is like overly sensitive, cries about everything, unless you're dealing with some sort of medical issue or thing like we get that. And we're not harping on anyone like that. I'm making a point here is that we have to understand when we need to be strong and when we need to let those emotions go and let them be used. Because for me, I didn't, when me and my wife were going through, our baby loss, I was trying to fix the situation. I was trying to help fix whatever pain she was dealing with. And when I realized that I couldn't fix that, it made me feel inadequate. I'm like, I can't fix this. I'm her husband. Like, why can't I? But it wasn't for me to fix. It was just for me to be there.
Support.
You know what I mean?
To be there. Yeah.
That was it. And it's like, because for men, we're created and made to conquer. We're like, we're going to conquer this job. I'm gonna conquer this career. I'm gonna conquer this girl. She don't want me, but I'm gonna make her want me. You know what I mean? We conquer stuff. And when we're not conquering, we feel like we're not being a man. And that's not the truth. It's just our makeup. So we have to understand that, when we are in need of something, especially help, we have to ask. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. You can't just say, oh, I got it. I got this. Like, yeah, you do in certain situations. But when it comes to something that's overbearing and too much for you to bear, you got to ask for help. You have to, because it will do one or two things. Because we suppress a lot of our emotions and feelings. And when we suppress stuff over time, it's like that soda bottle or that soda can. You shake that thing up and take the lid off, it's going to explode on everything around it. And a lot of us as men, we suppress our feelings and emotions. And what happens is eventually we explode.
Yeah.
We explode. And then it comes out on any and everybody. And it's like, nobody here has anything to do with why you're upset. Like, but you suppressed everything so long, it's now been triggered, and now you just gonna go off on everybody. And so we have to get past those things, because in the end, it can and will destroy us.
Yeah, it can eat us from inside, man, and really, really cause some damage. So the reason I've transitioned to live, right, is because it's the interaction with the audience. And my boy Obaimi, he stopped by. He said, "Peace to us both. See how we're doing." And then he also shared that good knowledge. This is why I wanted to do it. I wanted the interaction from the audience. I wanted the people to leave comments like this to show that, hey, we're really touching on topics that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I made that decision. It's helped me take my show to a different level now. Yeah. Like when I first started, it was strictly audio. Then I moved to audio and video, and now it's to the point where I felt like I need to go live whenever I do my show. And so it's just an evolution of me as a podcaster.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that interaction is important. I think for the difference between a radio show and a podcast, it allows you to be a little more intimate in a podcast, whereas radio shows, like, you can talk about this, you can talk about that. You got to make sure if you say this, you got to say it like this, you can't say it like that.
Yeah.
Unless you have, that leverage to do so, unless you're, quote unquote, Steve Harvey, you know what I mean? Like,
you can whatever you want. Yeah.
Right. But there's structure and there's, content you can and can't say. Now, of course, us being, putting out positivity, we're not putting out, negative energy.
Content, yeah.
But again, it's this structure in the podcast, especially when it's your thing, you own it, you do it, you decide what you want to talk about, what you want to do. It's up to you to say, hey, we're going to talk about this today. And they're just going to let it flow. And of course, there is a structure to podcasting, but you have a structure just to keep you on point, keep you on topic. But it's not like you're saying, hey, I can't say this. Let me say it this way to make it sound better. And you may do that from time to time because you may have a topic that's really touchy. It might be, it could, but at the same time, you're not structuring it to meet the needs of your editors or the needs of your producers. Like you are the editor, you are the producer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're meeting the needs based on what it is you want to say and talk about. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why I love doing it, because it's just having these conversations is what I feel that people need to hear. These are the conversations that help people get through the struggles. Like someone might be listening that had a similar situation like you did, where they lost a child, or someone might have a situation like mine where they lost a loved one and stuff like that. So to be able to give this to people and give it in a way that is, how can I put it? Give it in a way that it's easy, it's accessible. I guess it's a way for being able to put it out on all the platforms that I do now. It's being able to put. I'm trying to find the right words for it, but I it's just that to be able to do it and help people. That to me, like, people want to rate their success with how many downloads they have or how many people are viewing their shows or stuff like that.
Yeah. To
me, it's the comments, like what Obama is putting in. To me, it's the success. It's because I know he's learning something from what we're talking about, or what we're talking about interests him. And to me, that's being successful. Is if I could reach that just one person with my show every time I go out on the air, I'm happy with that, man. I don't need the 10,000 downloads. It'll be nice. Yeah. Don't get it wrong. I won't, but I'm happy with the numbers that I do because I know I'm having an impact on somebody's life.
Yeah. That's big. That's big, man, because, the 10,000 downloads, I mean, look, none of us are going to shy away from 10,000 downloads. No. All right. Let's just, and to a degree, what we're doing is quote unquote a business. It's a business venture, but like I said, when you're doing what you love or you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like, hey, this is what I was created to do. This is what I was destined to do. And whether I get paid $1 or I get paid none or I get paid $1 million, like, I would do it. It even goes to like athletes who play professional sports. You can almost see the athletes who say, look, whether I get paid for this or not, like, this is what I love to do. Now, of course, we know professional athletes all are going to get paid. Yeah. But let's be honest, there are some athletes who are on the bottom echelon of the payroll. And they're like, look, I'm just glad I'm here. Yeah. Like, I could be out there doing something I really don't want to do and be, stuck in my head about the fact that I never got a chance to do that. And now I'm out here doing this job I don't like to do. And now my life starts going another, and I start doing things I shouldn't do because I'm mad and I'm upset. But look, if I'm making $250K a year as an NFL player, as a baseball player, as an NBA player, hockey player, whatever, like, look, there's not many people in the world that get to make 6 figures a year. Yeah. Like, that $250K, that's not a bad lifestyle. You know what I mean? Of course, now you don't want to go and spend it all and waste it, of course.
Of course not.
But I mean, that's not a bad lifestyle to have. So, and let's not get me wrong, money's not everything, but money is what makes the world go round. But you have to be a steward, a good steward of it. Like you said, you were getting money after your job, and the government was giving out money, and you invested that money in making your podcast better, rather than going out and buying Jordans and buying this and buying that, and so that was you using your money wisely. You invested it wisely. And so what we need to understand is, stop saying I don't have the money. Let's look and see, what are you spending it on, that you can say, hey, if I start spending money on this, I can invest in that, and now I can start building my dream. I can start building my career, building my entrepreneurship. Like, you have to look at what you're doing and say, what is it that's helping me and what is it that's not? And start getting rid of what's not helping you and say, okay, I'm not putting money into that Starbucks coffee every morning. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I would never buy Starbucks coffee. But if you love Starbucks coffee, I mean, I get it. But you may have to go on like a strike for like 6 months and put that Starbucks coffee money into what it is you want to do. Until now, that thing is like, okay, I've got this thing going. Maybe I can buy Starbucks 3 days a week rather than 5. You know what I mean? It's about changing that. You got to change that plan until that plan starts working out for you, and then you can bring something back into it.
Yeah. And see, it's like this. Comments like this is what motivates me. It's seeing comments like this where people say that these are the discussions that need to be had. These are things that need to be talked about, especially in the Black and brown community, where these are things that we don't talk about. It's like we're afraid to show these emotions, and then these we're afraid to discuss these topics because what? Because of pride or ego, whatever it is. Yeah. No, we have to get over that. We have to really sit down and start focusing on helping and building each other up.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as men, in our communities. We need to focus on building each other up, not tearing each other down, and creating that space to be able to have these conversations, not just on podcasts, but having them in seminars and webinars and workshops, and be able to have us come together and be able to say, hey, look, let's just talk about X, Y, and Z. Let's just put it out there, and you never know. Like you said, if you reach one person, it's worth it, because that one person is a life you've changed.
Yeah,
and it's for me, even in what I do and from what I've done, I look at things from the success side of what others see success like, but then I also say, okay, what does success look like to me? But ultimately, what is success for me as a believer, in the Messiah? What does success look like to him? And then pattern that after myself. And again, we're not perfect people. Like, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do the wrong thing at times. But the thing about making mistakes is, if you don't learn from them, making mistakes is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, you got to learn from them. If you keep making the same mistakes over and over again and not learning from it, I'm like, it's not doing you any good.
No.
Whatsoever. You got to learn from those things.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
If you keep doing the same mistake over and over and not learning from it, it's insanity. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I even enjoyed the comments you had that came up. It was like nice to read those, to see that people are enjoying your podcast and they're interacting with it. And that's an encouragement to you to say, hey, I'm helping someone. Someone is enjoying the content I'm putting out there. Yeah. Whether it's a half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever. It's something that people can relate to. It's relatable. You're not talking over people's heads. At the same time, I mean, you may at times, but it may be needed. You know what I mean? To kind of change that mindset. You got to talk a little higher. Talk with a little more education, or edumacation, as they say. You know what I mean?
Definitely. But it's crazy because the Obama, who's the gentleman who's leaving all the messages, he's an entrepreneur himself. He does T-shirts and all this other stuff, and he's a school bus driver as well. And he's a great dude. He's one of the most humblest people I know. and one of the most positive people I know. And to have him as a friend, I'm blessed because he's since day one of me doing my podcast, this man has been supporting me. This man has been one of my champions, like always promoting what I'm doing, sharing what I'm doing, everything. And I appreciate him for that, man. He doesn't have to do that, but that's showing you what we're supposed to do. He's doing what we're supposed to do. Help share what I'm like. Share what like. That's one of the things we don't do. We don't support each other as far as business goes. Like we'll go out and buy a pair of Jordans or buy a pair of something or buy something a celebrity is pushing, but yeah, we won't go share our friend's business or we won't go buy something from our friend's business, but we're quickly asking for a discount or we're quickly asking for the hookup.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you know what, let me pay full price to help you grow your business and let me help promote you and share your stuff.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But there are people out there like O'Biden who are doing that, and I'm always promoting him. I'm always sharing his stuff because he does the same thing. Like you can't expect anyone to support you if you're not supporting anyone.
Yep.
And I appreciate everybody out there that supports me, who shares my content, who sends me messages. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to do it, but you're doing it, and that's key.
Yeah. And that also shows that, you know, and this is a thing we talked about earlier, when people who are in your circle, who are there when things started out slow, small, and things start to grow and get bigger. And you're like, you remember those who were there for you when you were going through the trenches.
Struggles, yeah.
You know what I mean? Going through the struggle. And people, and then what happens is that when things start to move, all of a sudden, oh man, I've always been supporting you. I've been in the background. Lying.
Stop the cap. Lying. Stop the cap, bro.
You know, yeah. it's like, look, you know, I'm not gonna mention any names, but there are a couple of, and I always like to relate things to sports, because sports is so relatable to everything.
Yeah, to everything.
There are people who in sports, past and probably present, who had too many folks in their entourage, and they want to please everybody. But when the bells and whistles stop, you can't find nobody.
Yeah, everybody's gone.
You can't find nobody. Nobody wants to now help you out.
Everybody's there at the high times, but when low times come,
yeah,
they scatter like roaches.
Yep. And so, you know, your boy is helping you out now. Like he's one that when things start going, you're like, look, he was there. I actually have proof he was there.
Yeah.
I got comments galore. You know what I mean?
Bro, and he knows. Like I said, he's always sharing my content. He's always sharing, he's always sending me, like if he sees something, I post something, he'll leave a positive comment.
Yeah.
He'll leave something to inspire me to, like, yo, keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're doing great stuff. These are comments that motivate me.
Yeah.
And to have friends like that, that's a blessing, man. To have people like that in your life that support you is a blessing.
Yeah.
And I thank God for every day for the people that support me and support what I'm doing, because without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff.
But this was some awesome stuff, man. This was a great interview, man. A great show. I greatly appreciate you coming through, brother.
Yeah, man. This was different for me a little bit. I was kind of expecting like questions. Like,
there's no structure here.
And I'm like, you know, as we're talking, I'm like, it's what we're doing. I'm like, okay, all right, I can get down with that. But different is good.
Yeah,
different is good.
Listen, every podcast is different, man. Everybody do their shows differently. Like my show is different from my homeboy show, who has something similar to what I do, but he does it completely different, and he does it in his style. You do your podcast in your style. Everybody has their own unique style to it.
Exactly.
But yeah. But no, man, this is so much fun, man.
I enjoyed it. And I would just encourage your listeners and supporters who are out there, man. Keep supporting this podcast. Share it. Don't be stingy, man. Like, share it.
Share the knowledge, yeah, man.
Especially those of you who know, what Wise has been through, man. Like, share his stuff, man. Let his words be his testimony, and be the branches that reach out to others to be able to support, man. Me being an entrepreneur myself, like, I know the struggle of having to, do everything, and I've built over time, and even over time I've changed some things. So I know what it's like. I know what it is to have your wife say, "Babe, you're doing great, keep going." And sometimes that's all I need, is her to say, "Babe, you're doing great, keep going."
Bro,
man.
For my wife was like, when she found out that because that was a big game. I used to come home, play video games, and that's what I would do. But then when I started podcasting, and she's seen how serious I was about how serious I was about doing the podcast, and she started seeing the work I started putting into it. She's like, "Tell me, what do you need me to do to help you succeed at this, to make you get to where you want to take this podcast?" And she helped me start my LLC. She helped me get the business going and all that, because she saw that I was passionate about it. Mm-hmm. She could have easily been like, "Dude, you're 40-something years old. You want to start a what?" Yeah. But nah, that's not what she saw. She saw that I was serious about it. She saw I was passionate about it. She's like, "What can we do to help you make this a business? To make this something that you love doing, but you can profit from it as well."
Yeah.
And to have that kind of support is amazing.
Oh yeah. She's a helpmeet, man. She helps meet those needs.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bro, I appreciate you coming through, man. This is so much fun. I love having conversations with amazing people like yourself, man. We definitely got to do this again.
Definitely, man. I'm all for it. I was on my way home today, and I started doing back to my youth mentoring stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'm done at 4. I'm like, I got to get home. I got to get on this podcast today. Then I got to record my own at 7. Go live my own at 7 today. We're talking about the NFL today. Yeah. But I was like, man, so I got to shoot home, do this real quick, then I got to prepare for mine at 7. But I would love to come back and just bust it up and talk about some other things, and definitely. Just keep things going. And maybe I won't say maybe, I'll have you on my podcast as well, and we can talk about your story and how things went, and introduce you to my audience, and keep things moving.
I'd love to be a guest, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thanks for having me, Wise. I appreciate you, man. And big shout out to all that you're doing. Stuck in My Mind, Frame of Mind Inc. We both got mind in our stuff, so we both know we're dealing with the mind. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the mind. It's a horrible, terrible thing to waste, man. But whatever you put in it, that's what you get out of it, man. So we got to make sure we keep that mind right.
Definitely. But don't leave just yet, brother, man. We're gonna talk a little bit before you go.
Okay.
Let me just finish up and give a shout out to everybody out there. But we're definitely gonna chat a little bit behind closed doors. So all right. So hold on a second. Be right back. All right. So now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to Obani Brown for coming through and sharing and chatting and doing all you're doing, brother. Keep supporting, man. I love it. Appreciate you, brother. Big shout out to my man Corrado, even though you're a little bit late. I still love you, bro, because you're another person that's been very supportive of me, always telling me that I'm doing great and always having my back, man. I greatly appreciate y'all, brothers, man. Y'all some great people. Y'all don't know how much this means to me, guys. I greatly appreciate you guys. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Brandy J, Bobby J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you, baby. Appreciate you. Big shout out to my guest, Tsombawi. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at wise_b_blunt, Instagram at wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.